everyone, this is Pete, also known as Snalydo, here to give you another first look impressions on this game Flotsam from Pajama Llama Games. Now, I ended up being introduced to them back when we were at PAX East in 2019, and I was really sucked into the game because it was a very different type of city builder type game. Now, with normal city builders, it's on land. Well, this is not on land, this is on water. And one of the intriguing things about it is that the Earth is pretty much gone. Probably 99% of the Earth is gone. All you see is random little islands up in random little spots all over the world. Now, this game has very few resources for you to work with. Where normally you have your minerals, your waters, your things like that to work with, so that you can end up growing your city and your town. Well, this is based on the water, so all you get is logs and plastic. Now, these two are kind of the building blocks to grow up your whole entire town, and the other thing is that you have your villagers to produce your town. Now, how do villagers survive? They survive from food and water. And to get those things, you have to produce many different types of resource management tools. So those resource management tools are going to be either the villagers themselves jumping into the water, swimming over to the logs or the wood, if you will, and then grabbing those, bringing them back to town, or having them jump into the water and go get your plastic and bring them back into town. Now, after you start producing a lot of those early objects in the game, what ends up happening is you end up then being able to produce boats. Once you produce these boats, they can end up doing a couple of different things. You have the scavenger boat and you have your fishing boat. The fishing boat, you'll be able to go to fishing pools. You'll be able to get the fish in that, and then you'll be able to bring them back to the main base area, and then you can dry the fish and then produce food out of that. And then the other thing is the scavenger boats, which will then you're able to take 3 times the amount of scavenge out of the water, which would be the wood or the plastic. Once you get those objects, you bring them back into the town. You end up then bring them in, and then you can work with them that way. The plastic looks to be that it's mostly for building the main part of, it's like the main building block with the wood. But the wood is wet, which means you have to dry it first. So once you dry it, you can then end up putting it into a mechanics area, which would then be able to break down the wood and then make firewood out of it, or rope, or whatever you're looking to do with it. Now, over time, you're going to use those scavenger boats to go to observation areas. So those observation areas will then end up giving you multiple different options of things to do. You'll be able to either get more villagers, you'll be able to save animals, you'll be able to get certain resources, or you'll get bonuses and resources like extra water. And then you'll also be able to get things like oil. Now, the oil will allow you to go to different maps. After you can either do it from the oil or with a mast. So you can either do one or the other. Now, just take a step back. One of the things you get is you can also get as water, which is, refreshed water. So the water itself is then taken, and then it's end up being cleaned and then able to be drinkable. Now, you can end up doing that by using a distiller, which will end up burning the salt water to be able to drink from it, or you can use research points, which you find on the islands, to be able to then upgrade different types of things. Whereas with the water, they have a solar distilling area, or the food area, which you can end up then using to then catch fish randomly off the side of your town, which is really, really neat. Now, I played this for about 3.5 hours. There was very minimal breakdown in what it was, because it is early access. There were little quirks here and there, which is what is expected, but it played very beautifully. The animations were fluid and great. The graphics of it was fantastic. I wanted to keep playing it over and over and over again because I thought that the game ended up having this replay value of it. Now, the reason why I'm saying it's got this replay value is because when you go from zone to zone to zone, you'll end up getting the different types of quote-unquote events, which is getting the villagers or the people, or the animals or the oil and things like that. And to do that, you need the oil or you need a mast for your boat. So you have those two options, but you consistently can keep going, and once you go to the end, it restarts the whole thing. So you can take a different track if you want to see what else you can get. Now, what I found interesting is that it has a very RimWorld-ish type mechanic where you can tell your citizens or your people, your villagers, to be able to do specific jobs. So what I ended up doing was I ended up having one person on the boat, essentially making sure all he does is cut the wood, end up working on the mechanic shed, and then I ended up having him do that, and then I had another person specifically working on distilling the water, and then I had another person that was specifically moving supplies and also putting things into the drying racks and taking things out of the drying racks. And then I had one person specifically taking all of the boats out and being able to fill up the boats, bring them back into the dock. Once they brought back into the dock, then they would just hop into another boat, go out, so that it almost was like that person was always working, and then the person that was hauling all the stuff around, he was ending up being constantly working because he was just going onto the boats, taking the stuff off the boats, and bringing them in. So you had kind of this fluid rounding motion of the game, so all my people consistently went nonstop. Now, each of the villagers have different stats on them, so they have things. So some of them can swim faster than others. Some of the villagers end up having, they require less food than others. Some require more water than others. And so each villager has their own little needs and wants also. And each of your villagers, they need the water, they need food, they need sleep, and they also have the regular health bar. So once the health bar deteriorates, which did happen for me, so one of them deteriorated and disappeared, and when that ended up happening, the deterioration went away, and I actually ended up losing one of my villagers, and he had a really interesting, like almost like a floating tombstone where he died, and it was kind of a little gruesome. And I was just like, I don't want that to happen, but it happened. So we kind of have to deal with that, if you will. I tried this game twice. The first run, which is most of the gameplay I have, was flawlessly done to a really good point. And I wanted to see if I could take the knowledge of the original first run into the second run to see if I can make it even better and faster, and see if I can end up making them build correctly or build differently, or my build orders, because then I learned how to do certain things more efficiently. For instance, I didn't realize that there was a way to research the items until about halfway through. So once I started learning how to do that part of the game, it ended up working out pretty nicely. So my second run, I was able to get to the crafting of the solar water distillers way faster, and I was able to start working on getting the food, the kelp fishing lines and all that way earlier also, which ended up working out pretty well. So it definitely makes you think and makes you more efficient. Now, I'm not sure if they're planning on putting in a hard mode or different modes, like RimWorld does. Like RimWorld, they end up putting, they give you 5 people right from start, and they say figure it out. But they also have like one mode that's like you have nothing, and you have to figure out what you're doing. from scratch. So I wonder if they're going to ever implement that, or be like, okay, you're going to start with one villager, see how it works. So I really would love to see what the Pajama Llamas are going to end up doing with this game to see how to make it more complicated. I do know that when I did speak to them at PAX East, they ended up telling me that they were going to be putting in other things like environmental problems, because they got really cool whales that are floating around. But they said that they were thinking about putting things in like dolphins and sharks and things to kind of mess up your ecosystem, so that it makes you think more than just having your guys just jump in the water and go. So it'll be really interesting to see where they're going to end up taking this game to the next level, and the DLCs, and maybe they'll end up having helicopters soon, and you'll be able to grab things that way, or maybe you'll end up getting some type of larger gameplay. So I'm very excited to see it. So I would tell everyone, if you want a game that you could just kind of veg out, not think about, go pick it up. It is on early access on the 26th of September. We got this key directly from Pajama Llamas, and I thank them very much for doing this, because I was watching this game throughout the whole year, and I could not wait to get my hands on it, and it did not disappoint, and I'm very happy that we were able to do this for them. So thank you very much for sitting through and watching this review. My name is Snalydo, also known as Lord Pete or Petey or whatever you like to call me, on the Iron Lords podcast team. Now, Iron Lords podcast is on Sundays at 11 o'clock Eastern time, a.m., football season time, and then 1 o'clock unfootball season. And I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day. Bye, everybody.